It's that time of year. We're not counting down the school days by weeks anymore. Now we're counting by days. It gets really exciting. Some of you are through or nearly through. Some of us have a little bit longer to go, but we're all getting near the end. And there are a few housekeeping things that we need to take care of to end the school year well. Hi, I'm Brenda from the Homeschool Files. Thanks for joining me. We just need to wrap up the school year, and if you've never done that before, there are a few things that you might need to know. If you've done this many times, it might be a good reminder for you or some things you hadn't thought about doing before. Let's talk about it. The first thing you need to do is to have an ending date. If you haven't set one yet, I encourage you to look at what you have left to do, get out the calendar, and figure out when your last day is going to be. Because you can't have an eternal school year. You might say, oh my goodness, but we have so many more chapters left in this subject or that book to do. You might not be able to finish them all. That's the hard truth of it. You need to look at them and figure out what you can finish. Now, you need to follow your state laws. I have to say that. Go to hslda.org, click on legal, click on your state, and find out what you have to do to comply with your state homeschool laws. But after that, a lot of it is for you to decide, and you need to make that decision. But it is important to have an ending date, and then you can work towards that and get everything done you can prior to that date. Now, if I were setting an ending date right now, I couldn't say, I want to be done next Friday, because I know that with a 36-week school year, I know that we're on about week 30. And so we have about 6 more weeks to go in one subject. And so we're going to have to double down a little bit to get done, but we can do it. So I can't say I'm going to get done next Friday. I need a few more weeks, but I have set our ending date, and I'm not going to go past that. We are going to do everything we can to get done by that date, because it's really important for morale that you know when you're done. I talked about a lot of this in a recent video. It's Behind on Homeschool, How to Finish the Year. And it's a good video, even if you don't feel like you're behind. It talks about ways to figure out what you need to finish and what you can leave for later and how to make those decisions. So go check that video out. I'll put the link up here, and it's very helpful. So I don't want to go over all that again, but it is important to figure out what we're going to do now, what we could do later, even next year. You're going to have to let go of some things, even if they felt like really good ideas in the fall when you were planning everything. It's important. All right, so let's talk about end of year testing. You might be required by law to do end of year testing on your kids. And if that's the case, that is absolutely a box that you need to check. If your state does not require end of year testing, you can still do it. Brenda, why would I want to do that? You might not want to, but let me tell you some reasons why I have done it and why other people do it, even if it's not required. So all of my girls have multiple times taken the Iowa test, the ITBS, the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. It's a standardized test that's given to public school students, and homeschoolers can do it as well. There are other tests also. That's just the one I'm familiar with. The benefits of that is because it gives them experience taking a standardized test. And I feel like that's important. I feel like it's important for them to have that experience prior to high school. When they go to take the ACT or the SAT or college entrance exams, I don't want that to be the first time my child has ever had to sit down and take a standardized test. I want them to have that experience prior to that. There is a lot to it. You can do it online. We did the pencil and paper version. You have to bubble in the right answers on a Scantron in the older grades. So they have to line up number 14 with number 14 on their answer sheet. That's a skill in itself. They have to time themselves if it's a timed test. They need to know, do I skip the ones that I don't know, or do I take a stab at them and try? They need to know that if there's 4 answers, 2 of them are ridiculous answers. One of them's close and one of them is the real answer. And they have to learn how to eliminate and get down to what they think the right answer is. They have to know how to work under that pressure and stress. It's a good experience. And if you decide to do it, it's good to do it 2 years in a row, because you have to take the results with a grain of salt. Know that they're being compared to public school kids across the country, and that we don't teach our kids quite the way public schools do. I have administered the Iowa test multiple times as a teacher and a homeschool teacher, and I have done different grade levels, and I'm here to tell you that some of those parts are super hard. It's just not the way they're used to having that information presented to them. And it may not be what they studied. Here's some questions on American history, and they've been doing world history for several years. And they're like, I don't know this. It's okay. You can still take the test. You're not going to know every single thing. And you, as a parent, when you get the results, have to take that with a grain of salt. If you choose to do the testing, the results come to you. That's important to know. If you do the Iowa test, nobody else gets that report except you, unless it's required by your state, in which case you're going to have to turn some stuff in. But I'm in Texas, and the results came to me. The first year I thought, okay, man, we need to work on grammar like really badly. I saw that the grammar part was kind of hard on the test, but we still focused hard on grammar. And the next year I saw huge growth in their grammar scores. That's why I say take it 2 years, so you can show that growth. Anyway, it's a good thing for them to do. I think it's a good thing. And not doing it at your dining room table if possible. You can do that, but it's good to have it kind of in a setting that makes it feel more important. Not that we're trying to stress them out, but just that they know this is different than our normal work, okay? So we have done it at a church, and they went off into different classrooms with different homeschool moms who were qualified. I think at that time, the rule was you had to have a bachelor's degree to be able to administer the test. And so those moms went off to give the test to them. So it felt a little important because they had some lady they really didn't know administering the test to them in a classroom with other kids. I have done it also at the library with I don't know, we had less than 10 kids, but they all sat at the table. We had little dividers around them, and they all took the test, and it went really well. We have to do it over several days. We split it up. I think it's about three mornings to get it done. And we took little breaks, and it's a nice time. But I will say that homeschoolers don't usually bring the stress to standardized testing that public schoolers feel. And what I mean is, public schoolers, they get that pressure, and they know very well that it's super important. They've been preached all year about how important this test is, and they get really stressed, some of them. But the homeschoolers, they're raising their hand, and I'm coming around, what do you need? And they're like, oh, I learned about this. I read a book. No, you can't tell me a story right now. Shh, you have to take the test. They are so unbothered by stuff. It's hilarious giving it to them. And they'll yell out, I'm done. And see, these are the things that they need to know before they take an important standardized test that matters. They need to know you don't shout out when you're done. You have to stay quiet. You have to finish on time. You can't tell the teacher a story just because you thought of one. A lot of little things there. So I do think it's a good experience for them. If you're interested in looking into end-of-year testing for your kids, you can go to Brewer Testing Services at brewertesting.com. That's BREWER. I'll have the link in the description, and they will be happy to talk to you on the phone as well and get a lot of information from them. So that's just something you might want to do. Again, if you're required, got to get that done. Check that box. All right, the next thing that you might want to do is a countdown. I think it's really fun to put a paper chain up, and they can tear a link off at the end of every day. Maybe it's just a countdown on your whiteboard, and you erase the number and change it at the end of each school day. Something so they can see the days shrinking, some visual reminder that, hey, we're almost done. I think that's really important for morale, for your sanity, all of it. And if you're planning some kind of celebration at the end of the year, it's a good thing to have that up there, or to let them know what that is going to be. Maybe it's a surprise. I don't know, but something for them to look forward to. And you do not have to go all out here. In fact, I would tell you to start small, because if you go on a vacation the first year, they're going to expect that every year. So kind of start small. Hey, we're all done. Yay. We're going to go out for ice cream, or we're going to go out to eat dinner tonight, or have our favorite meal, or whatever it is. A couple of years, my kids jumped into the pool fully clothed on the last day. We're done. And they went and jumped in the pool. Whatever you want to do to celebrate, something fun. The longest standing tradition in our homeschooling, this tells you how long I've been homeschooling, we used to play What Time Is It? Summertime from High School Musical 2. We would have that on ready. And when the last kid finished, we hit play and we danced around the room. That was our tradition. That was our way of celebrating that we were finished with school. And then we took last day of school pictures, done. Very fun things, but figure out what you're going to do to celebrate. A lot of curriculum has a certificate in the very back of the book that you can photocopy and write your child's name on to say, hey, congratulations, you finished this course. And if not, you can get on online, Canva or anywhere, has some certificates just to say, this is to certify that so-and-so completed fourth grade. And that night at supper, when dad's home, you can present everybody with their certificates for finishing the year and celebrate, yay, so proud of you all. Mark the ending. I think that's really important. And then give yourself 2 weeks off. Oh no, we're going to do summer school. That's okay. I have a video coming out this month about summer school, and we're going to talk about that summer schedule. But give yourself 2 weeks off. Give your kids 2 weeks off. You need a break. You need a break. They need a break. Give yourself that break, okay? I promise you it's going to be okay. You're going to have a lot of time to do the other stuff. Everybody take a break, and it gives you a little chance to plan. I'll have that video coming out soon. All right, the next thing we need to do, and not every homeschooler is going to have the same obligations where this is concerned, but record keeping, end of year record keeping. Some states have requirements. So again, check out your state requirements, your state law. Make sure that you're doing all the things paperwork wise that you need to do record keeping wise. That's talking about attendance, the subjects you covered, what grades your kids were in. You need to write all this down. And anything you turn in, keep a copy yourself. Now, you might want to put it in a file folder, in a binder, in a file box, digital. Maybe keep it 2 ways, especially if it's important record keeping that you wouldn't want anything to happen to it. Scan it with your phone and keep a digital copy on top of the physical copy. That's important to do. Hang on to that stuff. If you need proof of learning, and if that's required by your state, then follow those state regulations. If you do not have any regulations, I personally think it's still a good idea to keep proof of learning. And what I mean by that is work samples. If anybody ever came to me and said, are you really homeschooling your kids? Well, first of all, I'd be calling homeschool legal defense. But yes, I would have work samples to show them. They would be able to easily see, yep, see, here's what we did this last year. I have the proof of learning here. Okay. So it's good to keep. Maybe some people do portfolios. All right. Some people just do work samples. You will want to keep your test results if you took tests, anything like that. And have an organized place to put that so that you can put your fingers on it fairly quickly if needed. You probably won't ever need it, but there it is, all right? Note for high school students, if you have a high school student right now, at the end of the year, update those transcripts. Don't wait until their senior year and try to look back and say, what did we do in 9th grade? Because I promise you, it's one of the hardest things in the world to remember. Keep up with your transcript every year. Write down the courses they finished, the grades that they got, whatever. Update their transcript, even if it's just notes that you're going to make into a beautiful transcript later. Write the notes down. Keep them in multiple places. It's super important. What credits they earned, all of that. That's really important in high school. All right, and the next thing we have to talk about is what are we going to keep and what are we going to toss? Now, I have a suggestion. Keep everything right now, and I mean that. For now, keep everything. Get yourself some of those banker boxes or some good Amazon boxes and pack it all away. All the things that your kids did, the workbooks, the worksheets, the journals they wrote in, the spiral notebooks, all of that stuff, put it in boxes, rubber band it for each kid, whatever, label it with the year and put it aside. I wouldn't go through and get rid of stuff right now at the end of the year because honestly, you kind of feel like setting fire to all of it at the end of the year, and that's probably not the best tact. After you've given yourself some time and space, you'll be better able to sort through that work and think, yeah, I need to keep this, or that's not important. We can chunk that. Honestly, we just put ours in boxes for so many years and they were just stacked up out of our way. They weren't bothering anybody. And we went through them years later and the girls laughed and looked through their stuff. And we were just like, what in the world? And it was easy to say, why did we keep this? And we just threw stuff away very easily, kept the stuff that was cute or sentimental. I mean, so many years in the future, it hardly matters what they did in first grade anymore, and it's easier to know, okay, I can get rid of this stuff now. But for now, just box it up. Don't make yourself make those decisions right now. I don't think it's going to take up that much room. One thing not to box up is any curriculum that you might be planning to sell. Now, if it was consumable, obviously that's getting packed up. But like textbooks that can be reused or resold, set those aside because you might want to sell those this summer. I always sell old stuff. That's my money for next year. So set those aside. Don't box those up. If you're saving them for another kid down the line, go ahead and put them on a shelf, pack those away, and you won't need them for a little while, but go ahead and save them. All right, so store your materials, put everything away. If you have a homeschool room, get everybody in there at the end and straighten it up, clean it up, wipe everything down, put everything away, and close the door on it if possible. If all you have, like me, is a homeschool cabinet, clean it out, box stuff up, put the other stuff in, close the doors, and it's done for a while. It's important to have that closure. You don't need to look at it for a few weeks. We're going to just let that sit. We're going to be like, yay, we're done, and close it up. Unless you're selling it, then you need to set it aside. These are just some easy things that you need to do at the end of the year. Like I said, if you're planning on doing some summer learning, that's great. We plan on doing some as well. It's not summer school. It's not like that. But there are some things that summer lends itself to easier, and we're going to talk about that summer schedule in a video coming up. So I hope you'll join me back for that. I hope you enjoy the last few weeks of your school year, and if I can be of any further help, just let me know. My email is in the description, and thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a great week.